Every leader knows that a thriving organization depends on the energy, productivity, and commitment of its people. But few leaders are able to cultivate the employee engagement and performance needed for this level of success. What's the difference? Positive leadership practices. Welcome to the Positive Leadership Movement Podcast with your host, positive work culture expert, Alex Bratty. Ready to harness the power of positive leadership? Let's dive right in.
Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Positive Leadership Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Bratty, and in this episode, we're going to discuss the topic of job crafting. What is it? Why does it matter? And how can you harness the power of it to make your work more enjoyable and fulfilling for you and your team? But before we dive into all that, I just want to take a moment, like I always do, to thank you for being here. I so appreciate your support. I so appreciate your listenership. And so if you enjoy the show, please subscribe, rate, and review it so we can keep expanding this positive leadership movement and keep spreading the word. And remember, if you've got a burning question about positive leadership or positive work culture, you're grappling with some kind of issue related to that, just drop me a line at questions@positiveleadershipmovement.com and I'll address it on the show. Okay, so let's talk about job crafting. What exactly is this and why should we care, right? Why is it that, I've titled this podcast, make it the job you want, not the job you were given? Well, because you can, in fact, craft your own job, and your employees can do this too. So at first glance, that might make you feel a little uncomfortable as a leader. It's, the concept that employees can tailor their jobs to fit their needs and wants. Ooh, does sound a little unnerving, doesn't it? Like, what do we expect if we allow such freedom, right? Will it turn into anarchy in the workplace? Will we have lost all control of our team? Well, the answer, according to the research and specifically positive organization researcher Amy Wrzesniewski, the answer is a resounding no. In fact, her extensive work in this area has shown that not only is job crafting happening, whether you're aware of it or not, it also has lots of benefits for employees and organizations, right? So first, it allows employees to make their work more meaningful. And we know from other research that that leads to greater retention and commitment to the organization. Gotta love that, right? Number two, job crafting encourages employees to be proactive in their work. Again, who doesn't want that as a leader, right? Number three, the evidence suggests that people who craft their jobs perform significantly better than those who kind of just, chug along with the job that they were given, right? Number four, and this is hardly a surprise, but job crafters are more engaged in their work and less likely to be absent. Makes sense, right? If you're crafting your job to be what you want it to be, of course you're going to be more engaged and more likely to want to go to work. And finally, number five, job crafters are happier, they have better mental health and well-being. And of course, if you're a regular listener of this show, you know that when people are happier, they're also more capable, confident, and creative. So this is pretty compelling, right? So we know the benefits now. We know what this is, but what exactly does job crafting look like in practice, right? I've given you the description, but it is a bit nebulous, right? We're crafting our jobs. What exactly does that mean? And how can you either craft your job or support this activity in your team and your organization? So let me give you some examples of what job crafting might look like. For example, it's the leader who brings her passion for personal development to her team. So maybe she decides to hold goal setting or vision board sessions, right? And I have a friend who does exactly that. She's a partner she's an eye doctor, and she's a partner in her practice, and she loves personal development. She does it for herself, but she brings it into her work, and she runs these different development workshops for her team, for her organization, and they love it. And it's part of the reason that she keeps so many employees for as long as she does. Another example, it's the research director who brings his love of organization to a team by introducing and training everyone on a project management platform such as Basecamp or Slack, right? So essentially, it's people bringing knowledge and passion that is not part of their basic job description into the workplace and making it part of what they do. Okay. And this, by the way, if you listen to last week's episode 15, where we talked about cultivating positive identities, we talked about that GIVE model, right? Remember, growing, integrated, virtuous, and esteemed. And this job crafting is essentially that whole element of integration, only on a grander scale, right? So if I'm bringing something I enjoy, that I'm good at in my personal life, into the workplace so that it benefits me and others, and I'm crafting my job by including this, then that's also integration, right? So we're going to be growing while we do this. We're probably going to cultivate our positive identity in the process of job crafting. So you can see job crafting is not anarchy. It is the very opposite. In fact, it is value-added commitment in the organization. All right, so if you're still with me on this and you're indulging this notion, because I know some of you might be a little skeptical about it. I know I was when I first learned about it. If you're still with me, you're probably wondering, okay, that's great, Alex, but of course, how do you actually do it? Well, Wisniewski gives us a few strategies for this. And by the way, if you want to go deeper on this topic, she has a whole chapter devoted to it, to job crafting, in the book, How to Be a Positive Leader, Insights from Leading Thinkers on Positive Organizations. And that book is by prolific researchers in the positive organizations field, Jane Dutton and Gretchen Spreitzer. All right, so let's go through these strategies. So the first one is optimize your existing job. Now, this might sound pretty obvious, but not everybody thinks about doing this, and it's actually very simple. So to optimize your existing job, here's what you need to do. You got to monitor what you're doing and how much time you're spending on it, right? So monitor everything that you do, every single task you do, and how much time you're spending on it. And how each of these tasks make you feel. Do this for like a week or two, so that you're getting a sense of it, right? And obviously try to pick what is, what might be a typical week, right? Not some unusual week where you're at a convention or something. Pick, basically a typical week and really track it. I don't know if you're a nerd like me, get out your Excel and create a nice spreadsheet. If you just want to jot it down in a journal or a piece of paper, that's cool too. Whatever works for you, but monitor what you're doing, how much time you're spending on it, and how does it make you feel? Those three things, right? Then I want you to think about your values and your strengths and your passions, right? And we've talked about this on this show. In fact, we got into values a little bit back in episode 14, I think. So if you haven't checked out that episode, check it out if you're not sure about values and the need for them as a leader. All right, so think about your values, your strengths, your passions, and is how you're spending your time aligned with these, right? If it is, great. You may already have crafted your job exactly how you want it. If it's not aligned, think about how you could reallocate your time and energy so that you're doing more of the tasks that light you up and fulfill you and less on the ones that drag you down. Now, this doesn't mean that you're not meeting your responsibilities. It means being creative in how you meet them. And we'll come back to this a little bit when we talk about how you as a leader can encourage job crafting in your team, okay? But the point is, if you can minimize how much time you're spending on those things that drive you crazy and that you really do not enjoy. And you can maximize the time on the things that you do that put you in flow, that really put you in the zone. You're going to be crafting your job and you're going to be a whole lot happier, right? And we'll come back to sort of how do you actually do that in terms of minimize and maximize, because I'm not suggesting for a moment that you just decide, okay, I don't like doing this, but even though it's a really important part of my job, I'm just going to like throw it away because Alex told me to. No, I am not saying that. Please, no one do that, okay? All right, second strategy. Be deliberate in your relationships. Now, we've talked a lot about relational energy and positive energy in the workplace on this show. If you want more on that topic, definitely check out episodes 3 and 13, where we went a lot deeper on it, okay? But just a quick recap, the bottom line on this is that there are people you interact with every day that are energizers. They lift you up. And there are people who are de-energizers, those vampires of your energy, the people who drain you. And the point here is to identify who you're spending your time with and how much they're impacting your energy, so that you can redefine your relational boundaries, right? Spend more time with the energizers and less time with the de-energizers. Or if you don't have any energizers in your current circle, it is time to look around and see who you could connect with that is an energizer. And ultimately, with respect to job crafting, you want to develop positive, energizing relationships that can enable job crafting, that can bring more meaning to what you do every day. Okay? All right, the third strategy is to create an optimal workflow for your day. And really, all that means is to look at how you work best and enjoy work the most in your day. So, for example, I try to set up my days so that I'm doing my most thoughtful work in the morning. You know, the activities that really require quiet time and attention and creativity from me. That's just my sweet spot. If I wait to do these in the afternoon, it doesn't happen. I just don't have the focus I need. It's gone. And I know that about myself. I'm very clear about that. So the way I organize my days is to make sure that I have time in the mornings for those big, important projects. And then the afternoons can be a mix of various tasks and activities, right? Now, some people prefer to just like get their most disliked tasks done first and then enjoy the rest of the day. That's fine. Everyone is different. You just need to figure out what works best for you. And then, as far as possible, organize your days so that they're aligned with that, right? Because if you can simply work best the way you work, the way you like to work, that's going to change things for you right there. All right, now, all of those ideas I just shared have focused on how to basically craft an existing job. But what if what you want isn't what you're doing right now? Okay, now that may be more, you know, you're leaders, you may be pretty happy where you're at, but some of you may be like, I'm not exactly doing what I want. I'm thinking about a move. So in that instance, you can, and this is sort of the fourth strategy, is you can engage in what Wisniewski calls aspirational job crafting. And what this entails is honing in on the aspects of your identity or the work you want to do that doesn't yet exist for you, right? So let me give you a personal example. When I first started, this is eons ago, this is like 20 years ago. I'm dating myself. When I first started working at a cable news channel, which literally was like about 20 years ago, I found that I was really in the wrong department. And I didn't know any better. I was young. I was like still, doing my graduate degree. I didn't know any better. So what I wanted to be doing was audience research, but I ended up in the creative promotions department. Now, the reason part of that happened is because the departments weren't called that. Okay, it was actually kind of confusing the way they were labeled, but still, that's no defense. I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I couldn't, because I was young and I was new, I couldn't just say, hey, I know I just started, but could you give me the job I actually want? Obviously not, right? I had to literally craft my way over to it. Now, at the time, I did not know that there was a name for this and that I was job crafting, but it is exactly what I did. So And here's how I made it happen. So I did the work I was given in that department I was in, but I also came up with a project that was related to promos, right? So it was related to the department I was in, but it also required audience research, the department I wanted to be in. And I brought it to my manager in the promo department, and she recognized that she liked the idea, but she recognized immediately that it couldn't just be isolated in the promo department, that we'd have to engage audience research. But she liked the idea. So she introduced me to the head of the research department, and frankly, the rest is history. I worked with both of them, my manager and the head of the research department, on that project. And as they got to know me and trust me, we discussed my interest in research, and they both realized it was my passion and I was good at it. And so about 3 months into the project, which is basically 4 months into being at the company, I had transferred to the research department in a position that was a much better fit for me. So the point is, do not despair if the job you want isn't what you have. There are still opportunities for you to craft your way to it. Again, it just requires you to, sit down and think about, like, what are the options here? How can I be creative about it? And if this doesn't apply to you, think about when you do evaluations and meetings, like development meetings with your team members. Maybe you've got a couple of people that are kind of like that, where it's just not the right fit. I mean, they're doing okay, but their passion is somewhere else. You can think about encouraging them in aspirational job crafting, or just, job crafting the job they have, right? Like, you can be part of this too. And so that's what we're going to talk about next, right? So what I described is, ways to job craft in your own job. But as a leader, how would you encourage it in your organization, right? So first off, Wisniewski says you can give your employees more autonomy to do their jobs, right? And we've talked about this on this show before, right? Like, when you micromanage, it basically sends the signal that you don't trust them. And, where does that leave you with your relationship and how that person's left to feel, right? So by not micromanaging your team, it provides space for them to figure out how to get the job done. And very often that will lead to job crafting, right? Because they will start to figure out, okay, I got to do this, which means I got to go talk to that person, or maybe I need to do it this way or that way. Now, you could also be, and that's sort of organic job crafting. I like to think of it in that way. But you could also be even more deliberate and build out job crafting plans, like I was just mentioning, with employees during evaluation and planning meetings, right? Discuss with them, where do you want to be? What aspects of your job do you want to develop? Where do you want to grow? What are you not enjoying, right? And make a plan together for how they can get there. You're way more likely to retain that person in the organization. Maybe they won't stay on your team, but they'll end up in another team and they'll be flourishing, right? And better to have them flourishing in the organization on another team than them basically just, phoning it in and staying on your team. So the point is, this is a real game changer for retention. Maybe not for your specific team, maybe so, we don't know, but certainly for the organization as a whole, right? You can also, and I love this idea so much, you could also arrange to have job crafting swap meets. And this kind of goes back to the original point of maximizing, when I was talking about, hey, you want to maximize the stuff that you enjoy in your job and minimize the tasks that you don't enjoy. Guess what? Those tasks you don't like, someone else probably likes them. And so you could have employees trading tasks and responsibilities, right, in this job crafting swap meet so that everyone's closer to doing a job they love. And in fact, if you think that's nuts, hold your horses, because Google actually uses this approach to focus their work teams. So, hey, if it's good enough for Google, maybe it's good enough for us too, right? So there you have it. Job crafting is happening under your nose every single day, right? And maybe you're even doing it yourself and you didn't realize it. We've basically just created a label and defined it for you. But the key here is, sure, you can have it be organic, but you can actually harness this powerful process so that you and your team members are doing more meaningful and fulfilling work each day, which means, there's all the roll-on effect that we know from listening to this show, right? More meaningful work, you're happier, you're more confident, you're more capable. Guess what? It's probably growing your positive identity that we talked about in episode 15. These pieces all layer onto each other in a really positive way. All right, so did job crafting, what we talk about today, did it spark any thoughts or questions for you? If so, drop me a line at questions@positiveleadershipmovement.com and tell me about it. Or if you've just got a question or a comment about positive leadership or positive work culture, send me an email at the same address, questions@positiveleadershipmovement.com, and I'll address it in a future episode. All right, so join me next week when we are going to talk about how to successfully navigate change as a positive leader. We're all facing change on a daily basis, big changes, little changes. Doesn't matter. Change is inevitable. If we don't learn how to roll with changes, it can weaken employee morale and organizational performance. And obviously, we don't want that. So we're going to discuss exactly how you can deal with change and come out on the other side with a stronger and more cohesive organization. So tune in for that next week. But for now, this is Alex Bratty signing off and thanking you for being part of the positive leadership movement and inspiring me to do what I do every single day.
Make sure you subscribe to the show. If you like this episode, please rate and review. If you want to get more from Alex, check out Happiness at Work, where she provides leaders with a proven path to cultivate a positive work culture that increases performance, productivity, and profitability. Go to happinessatworknow.com. Join us next week and harness the power of positive leadership for your organization.